You know, what you see on the screen right now is some of the stuff that I come in contact with, and did come in contact with when I first found the men's rights movement. Unfortunately, it's not as uncommon as we'd like to think. As you read it, you'll probably ask yourself the exact same question that I've asked myself. What do we do with these people? Well, I'm not entirely sure. But for my part, I think I am going to label them something, and I think I am going to speak about them, and I feel the need to expose them for what and who they are. They are hateful. They are, in fact, misogynist. And yeah, I know, I hate that word too. I think it's stupid. I barely ever use it. But in this case, it actually fits what they are. My friend Tom Foltz, who is also a part of Men's Rights Sydney, came up with a very good explanation. And he said the following: as a movement grows, the possibility of it attracting a complete nutcase approaches 1. But what to call that? Well, enter a man called Peter Nolan, who I am embarrassed to say is a fellow Australian. However, he is now living in Germany. He created an organization called Crimes Against Fathers. Now this would be fine, and even laudable, except for one point. This Australian is unfortunately a couple of shrimps short of a barbecue. Or at least that's my assessment of him, and the assessment of the majority of the MRAs that I have talked to about this person. For example, he has created his own world passport and seriously expects it to be honored at international airports. He has advised others to do the same, which has resulted in a €16,000 fine on at least one occasion. He also claims that, quote, stealing a man's children, his house, his assets, his company, his future, and sometimes his very life is perfectly okay to 99.9% of all women. End quote. There's a lot more that this person has done, but I think that gives you a pretty good idea of the sort of antics he's up to. He'd be universally written off as a bad joke if it wasn't for the fact that he is so hateful that he gives all of us a bad name. And the last thing we need is a loose cannon like Nolan handing our critics ammunition on a silver platter. So, what do we call this effect? Well, as the size of any movement increases, the probability of it attracting a complete nutcase approaches 1. We now dub that the Nolan effect. We urge you to commit this definition to memory and use it as every opportunity you possibly can in conversations. Use it as an allegory. Create memes about it. Do whatever you can to spread it around. Just get it out there. With any luck, it'll get back to Peter Nolan himself, and maybe, just maybe, he'll pull his head in. Probably not. You never know. However, even if that fails, at least everyone will know that the men's rights movement in general does not consider him to be one of us, nor does he speak for any of us. There is absolutely nothing that we can do to stop nut jobs from calling themselves MRAs. However, I believe we can call them out when we see it. And that is what we do. We police ourselves and we do what we can. That is how we distinguish ourselves from feminism. For if you take the nut jobs out of the men's rights movement, it may lose a little bit of its strength, but the core remains the same. if you take the nut jobs out of feminism, there will be no feminists left, or at least none that actually get anything done. And that is the main thing that really separates these two movements out of everything else that there is.